Hi everyone, we are going on to 7.2, the rejection region method. So this is the second half of 7.2. It's just a different method for hypothesis testing. A lot of the steps are the same, except for steps 4 and 5. So those are the only two that are going to be an alternate method. So you can see as we list the steps here, everything is the same except for these two steps. Instead of finding a p-value and comparing it to alpha, we're going to find a critical value that depends, from the alpha, and then use it to compare to the standardized test statistic. But I'll go through that with an example. Rejection region is based on the type of test. So we can see again there's left, right, and 2. That's why there's all these different critical values based off of left, right, and 2 for each level of significance. So these are some common levels of significance. If they're not there, then I'll show you a way that you can find it using StatCrunch. And then interpretation is the same. So let's redo an example, and we'll do the rejection region method. So I can go through the first few steps rather fast because those are the same, right? This one was the one where we had mu is less than 4.9 and mu greater than 4.9, and the HA is the claim. It's a left-tailed test. We can do the verification. The Z is the exact same as we did before, right? So when we did that problem, it was here, right? This step where we found the Z, that's exactly the same as well. So I can just write down that Z score of Z is negative 1.29. I don't have to rework that here. And now this is where it gets different, because at this point we are going to change gears and find a critical value. So for a critical value, let's just write that here. I'll go CV for critical value. The notation is Z sub 0, and it's dependent on the level of significance, which in this case we have 0.05, and it's a left-tailed test. Right. So if I go to that little table and I see the 0.05 left, that leads me to the correct critical value of negative 1.645. So Z sub 0 is negative 1.645. And that's it. Now, what do we do with that? I think for this step 5, it's best to draw it out. But if I look back up here at step 5 now, when we make a decision about the null hypothesis, if the standardized test statistic is in the rejection region, we're going to reject. If it's not, we'll fail to reject. So it's best to draw this one to see if it's in there or not. The drawing, what I do is I first draw the left-tailed test because it's left tail. And the value that I'm putting right on the border of that shaded region is the critical value. That's the key. So negative 1.645 is right there. And then I also am going to plot negative 1.29. Maybe I'll do that with a different color. So this value, negative 1.29, well, if this is 0, number line-wise, negative 1.29 maybe is about there. So notice that that standardized test statistic is not in the rejection region. Right? So I could just write that out, right? So the negative 1.29 is not in the shaded area. And we're calling that the rejection region, right? Which is this shaded area. And if it's not in there, then that's when we fail to reject. Whoa, that wasn't the right place to put that. Fail to reject H sub 0, right? Which is what it says in the directions. Okay, and then we do the same conclusion, right? This conclusion is going to be the exact same as before. We fail to reject. HA is the claim. Insufficient evidence to support. And so I'd write that there's insufficient evidence to support. And that's it. I'm writing it as messy as I possibly can. All right, but insufficient evidence to support is the final, this is really the final answer. Right. Okay, so notice the difference. All the steps are the same except 4 and 5, where we find critical value, and then we do our rejection region method here. Right, those are the two new steps. Everything else falls in line with what we did with the p-value method. Okay, so we can try another one. This is the same as the beer bottle one, right? So that one we had HO was mu equals 32, HA was mu not equal to 32, HO was the claim. It was a two-tailed test. We had a Z. We can go get it from the previous problem, because that's the same, negative 2.65. Okay, and then now we got to get the critical value, Z sub 0. And that's based off the level of significance and two-tailed test. Go back up to your little table here. All right, so erase all this mess. Level of significance, 0.01, two-tailed test. Notice here I get two critical values, plus or minus 2.576. Okay, so I can go write those down. Plus or minus 2.576. Okay, and then I'm going to draw that. So draw two-tail. Negative 2.576, positive 2.576. And then negative 2.65. Notice number line wise, okay, 0 there again. There I'm going to be inside, right about there, right? That's where negative 2.65 would be. It would be to the left of negative 2.5. So here is a case we are going to reject H sub 0 because the test statistic is in the shaded region. That's it. This is what we're after. We're just after the decision. Same decision we got with the p-value. And then HO is the claim. We reject HO. Sufficient evidence to reject. So if I just did the keywords sufficient to reject, right, it's good. Really, I want to write that whole sentence out, but that's shorthand. Okay, and that's it for 7.2. So try those rejection regions. You'll know they're asking for rejection region if they're talking critical values. If they're talking p-values, you're doing p-value method. But both methods are good. So practice with them both, and I hope it goes well. Okay, thanks. Talk to you later. Bye.